Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network. Any opinions or comments made by any guest are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect any of the presenters or network's opinions.
Many times in the history of our civilization, the introduction of a new thought has brought skepticism, even ridicule. Despite this, there always has remained the duty and inalienable right to tell the people the truth.
Hello, this is Nick Pope, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network. And this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello, and welcome to yet another edition of Paranormal Dimensions. Thank you for that introduction, Nick. I've got another great guest for you today, Mr. Ron Halliday. And also joining me once again as co-presenter, the very lovely Juliet Gregson. Okay, just before I speak to Juliet, as always, if you'd like to get in touch with me, my email address is davidyoung2qn@yahoo.co.uk. That's davidyoung, 2qn, that's all one word, @yahoo.co.uk. Okay, today's guest, Ron Halliday. He has a new book out called Alien Spirits. He poses the question, it's the most puzzling question of our time. Do aliens exist? And if so, could the spirits of their dead communicate with us on Earth? Now, for over 2 years, he attended nearly 50 seances with the Edinburgh medium Ray Todd, where the explosive nature of this issue forced itself upon his consciousness. What he experienced blew away any doubts over the existence of extraterrestrials, as alien entities of all kinds appeared in physical form before his eyes. But the mystery deepened with the arrival of Greek gods and symbols from ancient Egypt. What was the spirit world trying to tell us? Or even more intriguing, could these messages be in fact from a parallel universe which existed on a different level but somehow able to interact with our own? Not spirits of the dead, but projections of living beings. The answer to that question could shake to its foundations our whole current belief system. What Ray and Ron experienced was as earth-shattering as that. Okay, as I mentioned, Juliet Gregson is joining me again today as co-host, so I'll just rip this piece of tape off of her mouth. Hello Juliet, how you doing?
I'm alright, thank you. How are you, David?
I'm fine, thank you, Juliet. Congratulations on your publication, to getting into, what was it, the magazine or newspaper?
Oh, I write for the local Blackpool Evening Gazette, so we have an understanding. I write about heritage, and at Halloween I have to do various pieces, and they let me publish, which is really kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, you got some photos done again, didn't you, recently, which went down pretty well, I understand.
They did, and I write again for a lovely magazine called Haunted, and that's done by a gent called Paul Stevenson, who I've known for years. And he's like, do you want to write for us again? I'm like, yeah, go on.
Oh, right. That sounds like another name to get on the show, actually, Paul Stevenson.
Yes, lovely gentleman. Like I said, he's just a nice bloke. You know, sometimes within this genre, you can get some, well, you know.
Yeah, don't say it.
He's very genuine. He's very genuine. He sees both sides of the fence, and that's kind of refreshing. And I think, yeah, I'll give you some details later.
Yeah. Anyway, we've got another gentleman tonight, Ron Halliday. I think you know Ron, don't you?
He's a bit fabulous.
Yeah, he is. I like Ron. I've only met him once, I think, in Glasgow. I've got one of his books here, UFO Scotland, which he kindly signed for me. I think I just had a short chat with him, and but he's a very nice bloke. And anyway, I'm looking forward to sort of doing this show with him. It should be pretty interesting, because he's got another new book out, which we'll talk about. in a moment.
Ooh, fabulous.
So shall we just bring Ron in?
I think that would be fantastic.
Right, brilliant. We shall do that right now then. Hello Ron, welcome to the show.
Hi David, thanks for having me on.
I've been looking forward to this one. We've been trying to get this one off the ground for a couple of weeks, haven't we?
All right. Yeah, I know, yes, it's one of those things.
Now, I've only met you once, I believe, and that was in Glasgow. I think it was for a very short, you might not even remember me, I don't know. But it was a very short meeting. You signed my book. I've got UFO Scotland in front of me.
Oh yeah. I'd like to hear that, yeah. I remember me, yeah.
Do you? Oh, right. Well, that's something, anyway.
Yeah. Of course.
But, you very kindly scribbled in it for me. And, as I say, it's a great book. And obviously, you're not the only one that's written about UFOs in Scotland, but I think yours gives it quite a different outlook to what, Malcolm Robinson's ones do as well.
Oh, yeah. You know. Yeah, I suppose there's a bit of a difference, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right. As I say, we've got Juliet joining us again tonight. I'll say again, she joins me occasionally to try to inject a bit of glamour into the show, I suppose you could call it.
Hello, Juliet.
Hello. It's more David being the glamour plus, actually. I'm the more.
Well, I didn't like to say that, but no, of course it's not. I mean, you're it's always nice to have a bit of glamour, and that's what I mean by you, Juliet. So
it's very kind.
A little bit of the female point of view sometimes comes in handy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, because like you said in past occasions, Juliet, there's not very many females that get a chance to talk on, a lot of shows, and you know, I mean, it's actually, I mean, as everyone knows, that there's not so many people, sort of like females within the field of ufology and the paranormal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few.
It's true.
There's some few very well-known ones, and there's probably quite a lot of less well-known ones. But actually getting them onto shows is not quite as easy as it should be, really.
To me, it's about spreading, information, the correct information, talking to people like yourself, Ron, David, like whoever, and just sort of having a well-balanced discussion and debate. And it needs to happen more.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ron is very respected in the field as well.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
Well, it's not, I only tell the truth, Ron. I mean, it's one of my, I think that's one of my failings, I always tell the truth.
Yeah, quite right too.
Anyway, you've got a new book out now.
Yeah. Alien spirits.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that's something that's crossed my mind a few times about aliens in the spirit world. Are they in the same spirit world as what our spirit goes to? Yeah.
And I think that is a very interesting question, When this came about because of my working with a medium, a chap called Ray Todd, and for a couple of years I went along, held seances with him on a regular basis, and kept a record of everything that we experienced. And the interesting thing was, as well as the spirits of dead humans that appeared, we also had spirits of what appeared to be aliens. So I mean, Ray himself, he was convinced, that look, there's spirits of humanity, there's spirits of aliens, if there's aliens in the universe, then, they'd have spirits too. So, I mean, I think it does raise a lot of questions. I mean, not just for us interested in ufology, but, for the whole world about just exactly what we're dealing with. In the universe. I mean, we're all part of some big thing, that we just don't realise. So, I mean, I was glad I put the book out, and I think a lot of people, found it interesting and sort of, raised questions for people to discuss.
I agree. I mean, I've got to admit, I haven't got it yet, Ron, but I am going to get it. I mean, and I've got tons of books on my shelf that I never get a chance to read, but I am going to add your book to it, because it's, it's one of those, I think a lot of the books you can sort of dive in and out of, because they're not like story books, are they? You can sort of just...
Yeah. Well, this isn't a long one, because, I mean, basically, I did a kind of opening chapter, looking at, mediums and psychics in Scotland, and then, I just had the seances, and then I did a kind of summary at the end. So it's not a long book or anything, and I emphasise It's only $1.99 for a Kindle download, so it's less than less than the cost of a cup of coffee. So that's not breaking anybody's bank.
That's right. I mean, Kindles are all right. I tend to find that if I buy a book on Kindle, I end up wanting to get it on paper, as a hard copy as well.
Yeah. I prefer hard copies, I must admit.
I do.
I mean, like a Kindle, they sort of just disappear into the ether, don't they? And you sort of you can't see it. It's very nice to, if we can all go on holiday and take all our books with us. That's the nice thing about it.
Yeah.
But,
that's what's convenient,
Yeah, that's right. You can sort of dive in and out.
Yeah, I know.
But it's always nice to just have a real book in front of you.
That's what I like. That's what I like, having the hard copies, so you can actually thumb through it, and see the photographs, etc.
Yeah. So when we talk about alien spirits, now, could we? The way I see it is, are we all just spiritual beings in the universe, and we could be go off to any planet, sort of thing, anywhere in the universe, or are we sort of tied to this, our own planets? In your view, Ron. I mean, I know you don't know. You probably, but you must have theories about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have theories about it, obviously. I mean, in the sense that, if spirits of dead aliens are appearing to us, it says something about the universe. It doesn't necessarily mean that we go to these places, but it could mean that we're sharing space with maybe other universe. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation from scientists, so it's not that we're kind of making this up in some Star Trek fantasy or something. There are some scientists saying, look, there could well be multiple universes out there. There could be other dimensions out there. And it's possible that at certain times, our Earth is interacting with these other Earths, because there's some suggestion, look, there's one Earth here and another universe, there could be another Earth. I know it sounds, incredibly complicated, and I don't understand all the maths, and, I'm not a physicist or anything like that or whatever. But I think, if that is a possibility, then obviously it's a possibility that these alien beings or spirits of dead aliens or whatever, are coming from these other universes or other dimensions. So, we don't know what out there in the universe, I mean, that's what, that's what I get annoyed about with scientists. My dad was a scientist, I get annoyed. I didn't get annoyed with him. I get annoyed with scientists in general when they make sort of, definite statements as if they know absolutely everything that's going on when they don't. They don't.
What do you think, Juliet? What's your viewpoint on it?
Incredibly interesting. I quite like the idea of different sort of time frames. I was sort of thinking portals, and I think I might have hit upon this before when I think I was talking about Boreskin House where Crowley was and various other people. They're rebuilding, and people you've got like half and half. Half of the people are like, fantastic, brilliant, wonderful. And of course the other 50%, what if you bring God knows what through the portal? And I think I remember mentioning that to you, David, and to Malcolm, and it was like, what do you think? And I said, well, you're in Scotland now, you're going to have to investigate. I would suggest the same, Ron, to be honest, but to me it's like Stargate. It's not that far-fetched. I think you just right place, right time though.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like that idea of portals, because you think, well, can this, a lot of UFO experiences, just last for a short time. You get individuals just seeing something, so as it was solid and real, nobody else sees it. So you just sometimes wonder, is this some kind of portal that's suddenly opening to one individual or a small group of individuals? And maybe that explains, all these strange things that people see, from the Loch Ness Monster to UFOs, I think it is one possible explanation.
Yeah. I was going to just say that, so we've got the problem that if we're doing a seance or something, we've got the apart from the fear of bringing a demon through or something like that, we've got like we could bring an evil alien through.
Yeah.
Is that
what
you're
doing a seance for you, David?
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is a possibility, you know. I mean, when we're doing these seances, I mean, you know, I did wonder at times, well, is this actually, you know, the spirit of a dead alien, or is it actually, I mean, these things looked so solid that, you know, the medium was bringing through, Ray was bringing through, you know, and it looked as if they could be actually real living aliens, if you like, you know, so I did wonder about that, you know, at some point, you know, I mean, what was behind all this? It was, you know, it was certainly quite curious. But, you know, if somehow, you know, alien entities are coming through and people claim to have seen them, so I mean, it's possible, you know, there's a portal, you know, the Stargate thing where actual aliens walk in the earth, you know, I mean, you think anything's actually possible when you start thinking about the nature of the universe.
I'll tell you a funny little story. I mean, it's not a long story. When we used to do seances when I was about 16, 17, with a few friends, we actually had supposedly had an alien come through. He told us he was from Venus. And he was like, and he was a plant type creature. Whether it was someone just playing around, you know, with us or not, I don't know, but, but it was like a walking plant, you know, like the Day of the Triffids, that type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose you have to ask yourself what are we placing faith in, you know. I mean, I know people are often getting messages via seances and, you know, people make various claims. So, I mean, it's, you know, sometimes hard to know just exactly what's going on in these circumstances. I mean, you know, I've been to masses and masses of seances and spiritualist type of things, you know, and occasionally, you know, one or two people have said they've had contact with alien spirits, you know, but in general, you know, they're talking about dead human beings. But I mean, I do sometimes, you know, wonder just exactly how much faith can we place in messages that come through? I mean, you know, they seem real to the individual, you know, I mean, they seem real to the individual gets a message. So, I mean, you have to say to yourself, well, if they think that is accurate, then, you know, it must be accurate. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's an important means of communication.
Yeah. There is actually, I can't think of her name now. There's a couple of ladies in the Eastern European sector. I think they're in constant contact, they say, with an alien spirit. Do you know what I'm talking about? I can't think of their name at the moment.
Off the top of my head, I mean, I've read various bits and pieces, especially on the internet, you know, but off the top of my head, I can't remember, you know, who that in particular is.
I think they just brought a book out as well. I wonder if I can find the name.
Yeah. Well, I'd certainly be interested in reading that. I'm interested to see if that corresponds, you know, with my own experiences. And that would be, you know, that'd be really good if it did.
Yeah.
I'd be fascinated by that.
I mean, is it Ivana? Somebody, and I'll have to. I might have to message it so you're on.
Yeah, do that. Because, I'd like to. Yeah,
they often send out their the communications to everyone. And when they first started out, they couldn't talk a lot of English very well. But I think they've improved a little bit since then.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff that seems to go on in Russia, you know. I'm just going by on the internet. And, you know, stretching back even during the period of the Soviet Union, there was stuff coming out about UFO sightings there, you know, as far back as the 1960s. So, I mean, there's a lot that seems to be going on there. I mean, it's a pity about the language barrier because it'd be very interesting to see, you know, what else they've found there.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, obviously, they wouldn't just happen in the Western hemisphere, would they? UFOs, they would be all over the world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think, I mean, you know, because, I mean, it does seem to be a worldwide phenomenon, which, you know, I mean, practically every country seems to have some kind of UFO sightings reported, you know, which suggests, you know, you are dealing with a genuine phenomenon because it's happening right across the world. You know, people try to dismiss it, but I mean, when you've got a worldwide event, if you like, it seems to suggest that, you know, something strange is going on.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be said that it was just a US phenomenon, didn't they? But of course it's not. You know?
No. Yeah. That's right. Sorry, Juliette, yeah?
No, you're alright. I was just thinking, I don't know if this actually exists, if there's like some kind of database where you've got hotspots, you know, you could probably talk about the Scottish ones we can talk about English and Welsh ones. It'd be interesting just as, it's like with Alan Godfrey as an example, Lake District, To me, I think there's probably hot spots that you can sort of pinpoint, but I don't know if there's some kind of global map.
Yeah, I mean, no, you're right, because, every country seems to have some area, where there's been quite a concentration of UFO sightings. In Scotland, Bonnybridge is a small village. The area around there seems to have, had over a period quite a lot of reports. So, you do get this hotspot phenomena, but, it seems to move around as well from place to place. So, going back to what you were talking about, thethis kind of portal idea, you just wonder, is there some reason why, there's a portal in that area, so people are seeing a lot of strange things that, they're not seeing elsewhere. It does kind of provide an explanation.
Yeah, because that takes us into the realm of dimensional experiences as well, doesn't it? Juliet, like we've spoken about before.
It does. We have.
It's
probably giving Ron ideas for a new book as well.
Well, that's good. I hope so.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
As long as he gives us a mention, Juliet?
Yeah, give you a mention. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no. That extra dimensional idea, maybe it does explain things. To a certain extent. As I said, I don't know the physics behind it, but I certainly know, these things have been put out as a possibility that, we do live in a multi-universe universe, so to speak, which, is mind-boggling when you think about it, but, it maybe provides explanations for all these odd things that go on.
Yeah, I tend to think of it in that way. It's very hard, like you said earlier, to get your head around it. But kind of the more you think about it, our vision is very small, isn't it, in the light spectrum, and all those other dimensional things could all be in the things that we can't see. So, which could kind of explain ghosts and aliens and UFOs that disappear as well.
Yeah. That's what I feel. You get people dismissing the phenomena, but to my mind, there's been so many incidents.
Oh yeah.
So many different people have seen things. That how can you dismiss it?
Well, see, it's tens of thousands, isn't it, throughout history, if not more.
Oh yeah. Oh God, yeah, it'd be masses and masses. Maybe
hundreds of thousands, perhaps even more.
Yeah, I would say hundreds of thousands of incidents. If you take everything odd that has been seen, from the Loch Ness Monster to folks saying, they saw an alien spacecraft, 20 feet away from them, which I don't know how all that kind of thing can be so easily dismissed, just because, folk can't find what you might say is a rational explanation for it.
Yeah.
But it's down to human experience. Right?
As you mentioned the Loch Ness Monster, Ron, what is your view on it? Being a Scotsman?
Yeah. Well, I've been there. Needless to say.
So have I.
But have you been there too? Well,
I didn't see anything.
I'll say this, the Loch Ness Monster is the best known monster, but there's plenty of other lochs in Scotland.
Yeah.
Also have a monster. There's quite a lot of monsters in the and around the world. I was talking about this at our annual conference, which we did via Zoom on this occasion, because obviously we couldn't hold it in a hall. And I was talking about this and saying, this monster phenomenon in lakes or lochs, stretches right across the world. So, although people try to dismiss the Loch Ness Monster as some kind of phantom, you start looking at what's been seen in various other countries, and a similar kind of thing. So you say, well, whatever it is, it may not be a real live animal, maybe it's some other kind of phenomenon of people seeing something from the past, So, I think definitely something's going on. In Loch Morra, which is Scotland's, in fact, the UK's deepest loch, at over 1,000 feet, old stuff, I don't know what that is in meters, but, there was, just back in the 1990s, there was a chap spoke, and there was a couple of blokes regularly out on the loch fishing and so on, and they were actually bumped by this large creature. The boat be hit and shaken about. And as I said, they went out in the loch frequently. So, yeah, they were convinced there was something odd in Loch Morra, and it is known as Morag of Loch Morra.
Yeah.
So, so there's, a lot of sightings of loch monsters. So, I'm not willing just to dismiss it, just because somebody hasn't caught it in a net or something.
Yeah. I mean, there is a theory that the lochs join anywhere in there, Ron, and it could actually be the same. I don't know if it's the same, or you call it a monster or creature or whatever, but it could be a family even, couldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's some suggestion that a family of beasts couldn't possibly live in Loch Ness. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a zoologist, so I couldn't, as it were, say that is true or it's not true. But what I would say, there's been a lot of sightings in Loch Ness and elsewhere, and as I said, right across the world of a similar kind of beast. So, I mean, you do say to yourself, well, what are people seeing? I mean, are they all imagining something, or is it possible, coming back to this portal idea, are we seeing something from another world or looking into the past? I know people want to dismiss these things. They can't possibly be anything. But I don't agree. I think people are having some kind of experience and seeing something. Exactly what it is, of course, is, I would say, part of this general puzzle about the paranormal,
Yeah, sure.
And the supernatural.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people would argue that they're not supernatural if they're like a creature that's just not been discovered. But, I think they are kind of supernatural if they've not been discovered, aren't they? They've still got to be called paranormal, haven't they, really?
Well, that's right, yeah. Until you've got it in a net.
That's right, yeah. In fact, I don't know if you would have heard it, but a few shows back, I had Kenny Irish on, and he deals in American cryptids. That was quite an interesting show. He had a lot of interesting stories to tell, and we touched on the Loch Ness Monster on that. But of course, he was talking about a lot of things about Bigfoot, and now I understand there's a Scottish Bigfoot as well.
Yep, that is correct. There is a Scottish Bigfoot. It's called the Big Grey Man of Ben Macdooey. And, there's some suggestion that, this is just a kind of atmospheric phenomenon, people mistaking things. But some of the descriptions I gathered together from a whole variety of people, there's no doubt about it that people were talking about an actual beast. Looked like sort of, a bit like Bigfoot, or, the Yeti abominable snowman, that kind of creature. So, it is very strange, you think, what in the Scottish Highlands, could there be anything like that? And it's very odd, but, these were some mountaineers, a lot of people who'd been up there had a similar experience, it's in the Cairngorms, had a similar experience of hearing footsteps and seeing some sort of large, sort of hairy, like, not let's say person, but kind of walking with a sort of human gait, a bit, like the big descriptions of Bigfoot. Yeah, so again, it's a real puzzle. I'd agree. It seems, say yourself, what can that really be true? But then you get these descriptions from people who've got no axe to grind or nothing to gain by reporting these things.
Yeah. When you actually look at Scotland on a map, it doesn't look so large. But when you're actually flying over it, and you're flying over all the mountains and things like that, you think these things could be hiding there somewhere. Because it is quite a large area, and it's quite remote, isn't it? A lot of Scotland.
Yeah, a lot of the Highland area, there's not a lot of people live there because it's mountainous, and a lot of areas people very rarely go into, that whole island area, as they say, is about the size of Wales, and use that kind of comparison. So yeah, it is a big area, because most people live across the central belt or around the, around the sea areas, and the central belt is very sparsely populated. So yeah, you go in there. There's some areas that aren't even any roads. So you have to walk for miles. So there's a lot of areas, which are remote from the places where people actually live in Scotland. So you say to yourself, but an animal could quite easily be living there. You get all these reports of black cats and so on and all that kind of thing, and again, but catching these damn things is all, It was almost impossible, but, you got all these reports of them. So you think, well, animals maybe haven't identified, could be there.
Yeah. I always try to look at it from a human point of view. Like, if you had I don't know, say you had a man and a woman wanted to just get away from everybody and live on their own and live in the mountains, it'd be quite easy to do without bumping into people, wouldn't it? And you could actually live there for your life, and no doubt, if there were creatures like that and they were living like that, they could easily, keep away from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. Yeah, it would be quite easy to hide away, especially if you're talking about maybe someone with a bit of brain or intelligence or something, or wary of humanity. I mean, yeah, I'm sure, that they could do that. I've always felt that, I mean, a lot of these bits in the Scottish Highlands are very rarely crossed. I mean, you'd have to be determined to walk across a lot of these places. Yeah. So, I mean, you think, well, animals could quite easily hide away if they, wanted to avoid any contact with human beings.
And also, it takes us into the realms of, are they interdimensional beings, isn't it, Juliet, that's come up before?
It does, actually. I was thinking, if, again, this is more just throwing an idea out there, more for Ron, if you know anybody that's got a drone, it might be worth that being sent up, over a period of time, just to see what evidence you could collate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think...
we could always send you up there to drone on, couldn't we, Juliet?
True. I could have Red Bull, that would give me wings.
Sorry, that was one of my quips. Go on, carry on.
Yeah. That would be a good idea, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's so hard to explore these areas that, anything that you could actually use which would advance it would make it a wee bit easier to actually survey some particular parts.
To be honest, you've got a lot of drone I'm based in Blackpool, so a lot of the drone shots that you will see on the social media pages is Blackpool Tower, Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the sea, the piers.
Yeah.
But you will find that drone enthusiasts, and probably to do with ufology and the paranormal, will jump at the chance to help you, because they'll be like, people are looking at my footage, so it's kind of a win for you and a win for them.
Yeah, it's a good idea, actually, because they're, like you say, there's getting more and more of them around, aren't there? I wonder how many of them get shot down, to be honest.
I'm trying to be positive.
I think if one flew over me, I think I'd be quite inclined to shoot it down, but there you go. That's just me.
It might be delivering a parcel.
Anyway, well, I mean, you've obviously seen UFOs yourself. What was your major experience, would you say?
Well, I mean, I've only seen odd lights in the sky, which are hard to explain. So I've never had what I would call a real proper UFO experience, which I would describe as actually seeing maybe some kind of craft or something like that at close quarters. So, I mean, if you're looking at the number of experiences that people have had, of what you might say, look, there's something which is obviously very hard to explain away. Somebody seeing something drifting over 20 feet in front of them and this kind of thing. I mean, there's not a huge number of those kind of experiences. There's a lot of folks seeing odd lights in the sky and thing, which you say to yourself, well, yeah, I mean, that does look really peculiar. But it's difficult to say exactly what it is. Excuse me. So, I mean, seeing some odd light in the sky is the limit of what's happened to me. You spend your life thinking, well, maybe, one day something like that, something like that will happen. But, I mean, the main thing is, that there are people who've had close quarters experience, and getting the details from them, which what I've been trying to do over the years, and publishing them, lets people know, that there is something hard to explain away going on in the sky, not just in the skies, but, sometimes in the water, because, there's been sightings of strange objects, under the water as well. So, they're talking about quite a range of people's experiences.
Yeah, the water things, I've heard quite a lot of that over the years. There's quite a few things in Canada, isn't there? The big lakes, there's been a lot of UFO activity.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. When most things are seen in the sky, no question about that. certainly in Scotland, but I mean, you know, there have been sightings of, which people have, you know, found it hard to explain away, and things shooting across the water. You know, you got all this description of odd balls of light of different colours shooting across bodies of water, particularly the loss of Scotland. So, you know, and that is another phenomenon which people have linked in to the UFO phenomena.
Yeah. There's even been the US Navy have been reporting some sightings, haven't they?
Yeah.
Or we've heard of some
right.
reports escaping anyway.
Yeah, well that's right, you know, and you know, Bill Rook, Alien Bill, I mean, you know, Bill's had a lot of experience of seeing all these strange kind of orb kind of things, you know, and I know you've had him on the other program.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up a bit later, but as soon as you brought him up, yeah, he's quite a fascinating character, old Bill.
Yeah, he's had all these experiences of all this orb kind of stuff, which I think I'm right, you know. So I was just speaking to him yesterday. You know, he sees as possibly some kind of living organisms, you know.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, you know, I mean, you know, the UFO thing seems to cover quite a lot of different kinds of experiences. So I mean, you know, it's hard to kind of put it into a box and say this is a UFO experience because there's such a variety of reports of things.
Yeah. You know, it blew me away when he showed me his photos and these hand lighting up and things like that, and seemingly being able to bring these beings or creatures or whatever you want to call them into his vicinity. He seems to be able to call them up.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, really. You know, I mean, so I do wonder, you know, is this a different kind of thing, or does this link with other UFO? You know, when you've got people seeing what seems to be like solid craft of some description, you know, how does that connect with these orbs? I mean, you know, maybe there is a connection. I mean, a lot of spiritualists say, you know, that orbs are the sort of spirits of, you know, dead beings, you know, and dead humans, more or less. And this is a kind of spirit coming back to places. I mean, certainly I've had mediums telling me that. So, you know, I mean, at first glance it doesn't seem to be linked, but it's quite possible that somehow it is all linked together, you know, just part of this strange phenomena of the paranormal.
Yeah, it's just that light force. Maybe that's the way they can travel interdimensionally or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you know, that's quite, you know, that's a real possibility. That's somehow that is somehow linked to how they actually appear or get through into our dimension from other dimensions. I mean, there's a whole range of possibilities.
It could even be, I mean, another little thought that came into my mind, it could be like although it looks like an orb to us, maybe it's like a telescope thing that, you know, they can actually see through that orb into our dimension, you know.
Yeah, and maybe it's something, you know, maybe it's just some kind of trail or, you know, maybe some kind of opening for people, for, you know, aliens to travel through. You know, I mean, something like that. I mean, you know, it does seem almost like science fiction, but I mean, it's a definite possibility that, you know, I think all kinds of things have to be considered.
I love that analogy. I've got this vision of the people at the other end of the orb just watching us going, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, it just came to
what are they doing?
It just came to mind, you know, that you only got, when things do come to my mind, things like that, and I think, well, what could they be? Because I mean, I've seen a lot of orbs when I'm at Rendlesham Woods. I don't know if you've ever been to Rendlesham. But I used to go, I mean, unfortunately I don't live near there now, but I can still go there. But I used to go out there quite a lot, in the dead of night, you know, with a few people. And you take a lot of photos in the dark, and most of them just come out black. And then you'll get a few photos in a, you know, one after another, that'll come out with a lot of orbs on it. And then you just continue, and it goes black again. So if it was all dust or moisture particles, you'd expect it to be on every photo. That's the way I think about it. You know, it's
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you because I mean, you know, I've seen photographs of things that people have taken when there haven't been anything there when
you can't see it. That's right.
And the things appear. You know, I mean, it's kind of strange.
So we've had misty objects as well. You can't see it with your eyes, but and then when your photo comes out, you get like a misty shape, and they now look like I suppose you can interpret it any way you like, but you've seen faces of aliens and things like that in it, you know.
Yeah.
I just love your reverse psychology. To me, it's like, you know, when you've seen these ghost groups, or you're watching the teleprograms and you're screaming and swearing at the television because they're so naff. You can imagine these poor things at the other end just going, what are they doing? Yeah. This is crap. To me, that is just a fantastic idea. Please run with that one.
You see, the amazing thing is those orbs could be around us all the time. It's just that we can't see them.
Yeah, well, absolutely, I know. I mean, this is the thing, you know, these things there all the time, and it's just certain people see them at certain times, you know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can't believe it's just, you know, some psychic you're out with, or medium, whatever, you know. Sometimes some of them like to call themselves psychic, others medium. I mean, you know, they're seeing these orbs, you know, floating about, and you don't see them. So, I mean, or maybe all that means is, well, you don't see them, they're seeing them, but for some reason, you know, you're not kind of locked into that, you know, what they call, you know, vibration, this sort of thing, you know, you're not locked into it, so you don't see, even though they're there all the time.
I mean, there's been twice I've seen an orb when I've been up in the woods, you can actually see it with your naked eye, it's like a red light, and you've actually seen that. In fact, I was with Brenda Butler once, and we were in the car park, and I saw this red light go across and she said, you saw that as well, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I saw that. You know, and that was quite an amazing thing. That was the first one I think I saw.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never seen an orb. I don't think I'm psychically tuned in.
No, I'm not
This
either.
is the problem, you know. You know, people see things and I don't, but I mean, yeah, I wish I could, but that'd be good.
No, I think we've all got it in us, Ron. I think it's just that a lot of us don't really hone it, do we? And some people, you know, and a lot of, you know, most people are more sensitive, I think. It's just that, I think we've all got it.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, sometimes I wonder, am I putting up a barrier to it, you know? I mean, without realizing it, that I'm putting a barrier up to it, you know, for some reason. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, you know, because, you know, some people you meet, they're forever sort of seeing things or getting messages or whatever, you know, and then you can't, you know, you just don't get anything at all like that.
No.
And it is kind of odd, but maybe it's like some folk are, you know, good at drawing and other people can't draw, and, you know, this kind of thing. Maybe it's just, you know, one of those talents, so to speak, you've either got or you haven't got. See, my granny, she was psychic, you know. She came from up north, you know, from Aberdeen area, and she was forever seeing spirits of, you know, the dead wandering about, and she'd tell you about them, you know, and, but I just don't see that, so, I don't know whether it's something inherited or whether it's something you're just born with or whatever.
Yeah. I think Juliet's a bit psycho, aren't you, Juliet? I'm sorry, I mean psychic, aren't you?
David, when I do see you in reality, you're going to get such a slap, sweetheart. We do banter, don't get me wrong, he's an absolutely lovely bloke. It's just sometimes I'm like, really?
Bring your boxing gloves.
Have you seen anything, Juliet, just, you know, while we're talking?
Yes. Mum used to do tarot, taught me how to do it, so I've always been surrounded by spirits, not the alcoholic kind.
No.
So,
well, those as well.
Never seen a UFO, but I'm one of those, I love local history, so there's always part of me, if I go somewhere, I go, ooh, what happened here? Or, to me, you could argue this one, or even debate until the cows come home. It's like, are you born with it? And then you lose the ability as you get older. You get more cynical. Adultism gets in the way. Or I remember sort of doing a guest talk once, and I think one of my opening lines was, "Hello, I'm Juliet. I see dead people." It gets a laugh. But if you sort of go back 20 years or so, that's something you couldn't talk in a really mainstream way about. I think, weirdly, COVID has made things of a ufology nature, paranormal nature, things like the podcast more popular. So the word is getting out there. It's like, guest, you had to do basically your conference over Zoom,
Yeah.
It's just it's educating people. I love to learn. I love doing this. And people go, why do you do it? You don't get paid. I get to talk to really cool people.
Yeah, we don't get paid for it, do we?
Yeah, well, I think you made a good point there about, I have felt in the last year or so that there's been a lot more toleration or interest in the whole paranormal thing,
Yeah.
UFOs in particular. I noticed there has been a bit of a change in people's attitude towards. I don't know if you felt the same, David. But
I do. In a spiritual way, very much so. There's a lot of thought that there's a battle between good and evil going on, which I've heard quite a bit about, and I do actually believe that.
Yeah. I certainly think, we had these sort of Pentagon files, obviously, coming out, which, I found really quite curious. They came out at this time all of a sudden, and I know there's a lot of pressure from some of the senators, to get this stuff out. But I found it interesting it came out just at this particular point, because it certainly seemed to, although they didn't say, oh, there's alien beings out there, they certainly seemed to admit there was some really inexplicable things going on.
Yeah.
And you had these pilots, who normally would probably stay a million miles away from the media, saying there were things there that were interfering with their, with the controls of their aircraft and so on. So, I found that really quite interesting that all that came out just at the end of this COVID period.
But the thing is, they built it up, didn't they? So to think, oh, there's something really big going to break. And then at the end, like it is most times, it was just a little bit disappointing. But like you said, also there was some little gold nuggets in there.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's what I felt. I think they said there's 144 cases, hard to explain or something. But when it came down to it, there was only 2 or 3 which I thought really stood out. But the mere fact that you had these pilots admitting that there was things they couldn't explain, I found that interesting. That they were allowed to say that. Because normally they really, I've spoken to pilots in the past, commercial pilots who have seen odd things, around Scotland, around the airports. And, they say, well, they want it kept confidential. They ring me up, say, I don't want this going out into the papers because, it ruined my career and, they'd stop me flying. It's extreme as that. So it was interesting that these pilots were admitting that what they'd seen was difficult to explain away.
Yeah, I think there's been quite a lot more, like you say, there's been a lot more coming forward in recent years. Because it seems to be more acceptable now that you can say it, I believe, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah, I think it has become more acceptable. And, I think that's all to the good because it gives people the opportunity to get some idea what's, been going on in the whole UFO field.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is because other people see these things and they probably question, well, why aren't you seeing it? When you're up in the air and, we're seeing them from down here, but you're not seeing them. So it kind of makes it look a bit stupid, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think, you think, the British government for years said, they weren't interested in UFOs, then all of a sudden they start releasing these files. So I think people are saying, well, if that can happen, what else is being kept back?
Oh, yeah.
And you think governments always have their own agenda. And you can never believe, I never believe anything that I say. But, so you just wonder, is there anything else being kept back? More interesting things, and they're just kind of giving you a bit of a taster. Yeah. And keeping, the really... other stuff.
Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
What, again?
Again, I know. this flipping woman, this northern lass. Excellent points. What if the government is keeping things back because humanity isn't ready to accept what's actually going on?
Yeah, I think that is a real possibility. I think there are 2 possibilities. They're holding things back because, as you say, I suggest You know, they don't want humanity to get out of control. I mean, governments, their first job, to my mind, is always to try and control the people. So they'll put a lid on things that they think are going to disturb things as much as possible. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is that, right, they're aware there are strange things going on which can't be explained, and they don't understand it themselves. So I think, you know, there are those two possibilities.
So the thing is that now, what you mentioned about government there, now are we talking about the likes of Boris Johnson? Because I don't believe he was, but or are there people that are more secret and controlling things, who are more inclined to be pulling the strings or hiding stuff, even from our front bench government people?
It's like an episode of Mystery Man with our man Flint, isn't it?
But that's the way I see it. I don't think our ordinary politicians know any more than we do. You know.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. But there's always people in the background pulling the strings, and you know, the politicians are just the front men often for other organisations, without sort of getting paranoid or into deep conspiracies. But I do think, you know, there are people with the influence, the money in the background there, and some of the politicians, even the Prime Minister, even the presidents, you know. I mean, you got the presidents saying, well, they wouldn't tell me about all these UFO sightings. Even when they asked to find out, that kind of thing. Really strange when you think these must be all powerful people, but a lot of these presidents aren't, you know.
Yeah.
They're just front men for other organisations.
Well, there have been several presidents that have tried to find out what's been going on, and they've all been kicked back for it, or they say they have been. Maybe maybe they have had some bits released to them, but they've been told they can't release it, you know. So it's just what they normally do is just make a joke of it, don't they? You know.
They do, absolutely, yeah.
Ron, I was just reading a resume about the guest talk that you did over Zoom about Scotland's monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Dragons, kelpies, werewolves, vampires, centaurs, unicorns.
Yeah.
The list is immense, and I thought, incredibly interesting. You've sort of talked about this as we've gone through the conversation tonight. And to me, it's like, yes, dragons probably popular by Harry Potter. Werewolves, vampires, it's like you say, things are becoming more mainstream. You can talk about, to be honest, if you dress as a vampire in Blackpool or a werewolf or even a dragon, nobody would bat an eyelid. Seriously, that's the sad part of
that's
it.
True.
I'll remember that next time I come up.
True.
Yeah, I think it's become part of the culture.
It is, but to me, it's all about the education about it as well, because the things, I remember the first time I thought, Kelpie, what's a Kelpie? And that's why, you know, you're opening Pandora's box when you start researching things and going into the whats and the whys, but again, that's where you're meeting like-minded individuals. I also remember reading as well that you said you used to write for Glasgow Evening Times, is that correct?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Did you find that you got people maybe writing to you, or I mean, how was that received?
I used to get regularly writing in with various experiences that we've had, you know, and there was quite an amazing variety of things that had happened to people, you know, from ghost poltergeist to UFO sightings. So I mean, it certainly stimulated a lot of interest and reports from people. I mean, I think, you know, the whole monster thing, to my mind, is quite interesting in the sense that there's been a whole range of strange creatures or entities, whatever you want to call it, reported in Scotland. I just focused on Scotland, obviously, because that's where I live, so it's, you know, it's easier to gather stuff together. And I mean, I was just amazed, you know. I mean, you know, one thing, I mean, I didn't know myself until, you know, relatively recently, that's had been a vampire hotspot at one time, reports of vampirism and so on. And even recently there have been some reports of human beings looking like dogs, you know, like a werewolf, basically. I mean, whether or not all these sightings I don't mean that people are making them up. Maybe they're misidentifying things. I mean, that's quite possible. But, you know, but the mere fact that people are saying they think they've seen a werewolf, you know, almost in contemporary times, last few years. I mean, I find quite really interesting, stimulating, where are these ideas, coming from? Folks say they've seen mermaids in the last 20 years. You say, really, have they? But I mean, in one way, on one level, that doesn't matter. The interesting thing is they think they've seen one. Genuinely think they've seen something like that, So, as I said, I'm not giving a sort of definite conclusion on these things, but as the fact that people do have these experiences right up to the present time and say they see fairies and so on, it's really strange.
Yeah. Again, I mean, that thing about what you said about vampires, I found that quite interesting, because I've got a couple of vampire books here that I managed to get from a charity shop. In actual fact, they're quite nicely bound and all that. It's something we've never really dealt with on this show about vampires too much, and it's something I would have liked to have done at some point. What's your view on vampires, Julia? Do you think they existed?
I think yes, but again, we've not really. You're right, we've not really come across anybody who can speak in great depth on vampirism.
It's a very interesting subject. Yeah.
I've got a friend who's very much into the Hammer House of Horror. He's actually local to me. I could mention it if you want to see if he can. It's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I mean, it's
mythology. It's like, is it Dracula, or is it Romanian, or is it somebody who's just weird and likes chewing people?
No, I mean, the thing is, it could take us back into that realm of interdimensional beings again, couldn't it? You just don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah,
all right.
Absolutely.
All right. Devil's advocate again. What about all these monsters, be it a dragon, a kelpie, etc., etc.? What if the aliens are dropping them on the Earth just to see what happens?
Well, yeah, this is what I mean. That's often mentioned about the abominable snowman or Bigfoot, isn't it? That they could be interdimensional creatures because of the way they appear and disappear all of a sudden.
It's like, do they come on holiday here? What?
Yeah.
Where you going?
Yeah.
Mars. We're not going to Mars. It's too hot. We're going to go to Earth. It's much more entertaining.
Yeah, you're talking about
here at the moment.
the reason why they're dropped here, just to sort of make us all think and think, what was that creature?
Yeah.
What are they actually doing here, walking about? Yeah.
That would make such a cool film, wouldn't it? It'd be like, you can imagine them sort of planning the holiday on the home planet. It's like Mars now, it's too hot. Venus, can't breathe properly. Earth. Oh, it's funny. It's like that show. Do you know? That'd be brilliant.
Yeah. I can see the potential there.
Anyway, Ron, you can see where this show goes now, can't you? Would you?
And
like I said, I bring up questions. People go, I didn't think of that, and it's like,
yeah, quite, it was interesting one, that I must admit. But I mean, I know people have suggested, are these coming from some alien dimension, or are alien entities letting these beast creatures or whatever out? But I mean, to be honest with you, there's a long tradition of some of these, like the kelpies, for example, loch monsters and so on, So, I mean, there's a long tradition of them, so...
To be honest, I hadn't heard of the kelpie until Bill Rook started mentioning about it, and that was kind of the first time I'd heard about it.
Yeah, well, it's a kind of that's the thing, it's different from a Loch Ness monster, in a way, because it's a sort of interdimensional kind of being, lives on the sort of edge of our world and the supernatural. I mean, it's something that comes out of the water disguised as a horse, and sort of kind of behaves in a friendly manner. And then the minute you get on his back, it, rides in the water and drowns you. So, I mean, and, eats you up or whatever. So, I mean, it kind of, it changes shape once it goes in the water. So it's a kind of interdimensional sort of creature, but I mean, it's interesting because, I mean, mermaids, got the same thing. They're sort of living part in this world and part in a supernatural world as well. So, I mean, that's, they sort of cross the line between our lives and, the other world lives. That's why I find some of these stories or whatever interesting, and the similarity sometimes between fairies and modern you know, and modern aliens. I mean, you know, there's similarities there as well, which is quite interesting.
Yeah. How do you feel about, remember the Bob Taylor story about the torn trousers and the rolling, ball type things with the spikes on them?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a fascinating story, you know, and I don't know if you met Bob. I mean,
I haven't, but obviously we've heard all about it from Malcolm, Malcolm Robinson a few times.
Yeah. Well, of course, Malcolm was there, you know, and they went there just after, you know, it happened. So yes, he was there right at the beginning, kind of thing. Yeah, I was actually living down in London when that incident occurred. So I didn't move back to Scotland for a couple of years after that, but I spoke to Bob, and I mean, I went out and interviewed him and so on and so forth. You know, I mean, I think everybody said that he was a chap who was above the level. You know, he was on the level, so, and he, you know, I mean, he wasn't making anything up. I mean, he felt this incident had genuinely happened to him, that he'd seen something from out of this world, and yeah, he felt that right to the very end. I mean, he never deviated from that. I think even skeptics, you know, who said, well, it could have been someone else. I think, you know, I've forgotten, Stuart Campbell, for example, said he must have had an epileptic fit and imagined it, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I've heard about that theory.
Yeah. But didn't doubt that, you know, he believed he'd had this experience, wasn't making anything up or something. But to my mind, I mean, you know, having spoken to Bob, I have no doubt that, you know, what he said happened to him. I mean, you know, we had the ripped trousers and all that kind of thing, and, you know, he wasn't somebody who was, you know, likely to make things up. No. I mean, it's really, and the police were there and investigated, as you know, and they never found any other cause for it. So yeah, it's a absolutely fascinating case, I think.
Was he actually prone to epileptic fits?
No.
So he didn't. So he didn't suffer from epilepsy. So where did that theory come from? I wonder.
Yeah, well, that came from Stuart Campbell. Who, you know,
that's what I mean. But normally you've got a history of epilepsy, haven't you?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, well, of course, absolutely. Yeah. So I don't know. You know, I don't know where he picked that up, but I mean, according to it was complicated, but according to Stuart Campbell, he saw a mirage of Venus, and this sparked off his epileptic fit. Oh. So I mean, it was. I feel Stuart was being a bit fanciful there, you know, on that particular front, because I think there's, you know, as far as I'm concerned, what Bob saw, you know, he did see, and, you know, what happened to him. So it is strange.
Yeah. I have seen those.
Insofar as...
I've seen those trousers, or trousers, as Malcolm calls them, and a couple of times, with the funny shaped Sorry.
That was a good talk, that.
Yeah, it's a great talk. I mean, it is quite a funny tear. It's in a kind of a funny position, isn't it? Like if you fell over a fence or something, it's not where you would tear your trousers.
I think that's right, because there was some explanation where he clambered over a fence and ripped his trousers, but anyway, that wasn't Bob's explanation for it, you know.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, anyway. Okay, right.
It is very interesting.
I was going to say, right, the next thing, you've done a bit of work with, I had James Welsh on a couple of shows back, and he mentioned you in a very glowing light, and you've done some work with him.
I have, yeah. Hello?
Can you tell us anything about it, or is it something you don't want to talk about?
What? No, I'm quite happy to talk about it. I mean, James, of course, he had experiences way back in the 1990s and so on, so I was in touch with him then. I mean, since then, he's been working on, I don't know what he said to you, but he's been working on various theories. You know, he had these photos which he said, you know, showed alien beings and the like. So, I mean, and he's been linking up various incidents and various things from across the world, and working out some kind of general theory about UFOs and so on, and UFO cover up. But I mean, really, James is a person who has got all that information and all that detail. I mean, you know, certainly when I met James, you know, back in the 1990s and so on, and, you know, he was describing his experiences. There's no doubt that, you know, he'd had something definitely, he'd seen something which was very hard to explain away. So I think, you know, because of that, he got kind of interested in the whole subject and really has been doing a lot of work. And in fact, I've had a lot of messages from him the last couple of weeks about all the stuff that he has been doing.
Yeah, I know he's been talking to a couple of you for quite a while. But now, James, the way I see James, he's not the type of person that makes things up, is he?
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, and he's done such a massive amount of work on all these things and these photos. I mean, did you see the photographs that he had of these, you know, what you say were alien beings?
Yes.
I don't know if you
he sent me a lot of stuff because he often talks to me off air, obviously.
Yeah, so you've seen all that stuff, yeah. And so, I mean, what I said to James, David, was, look, James, you need to consolidate. You know, you've got all these ideas, saying about all these things that you think are connected up, but I mean, you know, it'd be a good idea to consolidate them, you know, where you've got all that information down, so, you know, people can see just exactly what you're saying about things, because, you know, he's covering a load of things, and he seemed to know what he had in mind, so I thought, you know, get that all down, and then people can get an idea of just what the theory is that you're proposing.
Yeah. Yeah, he seemed to be having quite a lot thrown at him all at once. It seemed to me.
Yeah. I thought there was a load of stuff that. I mean, he seemed to know what was connected up, but I said, you know, people it would be better for people. They better understand it if you kind of put it all together, and you know, explained it on, I don't know, either in a booklet or, you know, whatever, you know, some bit of writing or something. So. You know, so it's kind of focused for people to, so you get some credit for all the stuff you've done, you know?
Well, he has got his blog page that he does, but I think he's actually going to turn that into a book. He's hoping to, as I understand it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying to him. So, I mean, you know, so that'd be interesting.
Yeah, because it would be sort of like the follow-up to corroborated evidence.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
When I suggested the title Beyond Corroborating Evidence, but where's we going to go with it? I don't know. It just sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, that's right, because you've already put all that stuff together, you know.
Yeah.
And, well, you know, the earlier stuff. So, I mean, you know, follow-up seems like the, you know, now he's gone into it more depth, expanded it, and linked up quite a few, things from, like, across the globe and so on. Yeah, it makes sense to put it down in a follow-up. I mean, anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about your book, Alien Spirits, and it's got a question mark after it. So you're actually asking the question: are there alien spirits?
Yeah. Well, that's right, David. Because I mean, you know, I was putting down all what I'd seen, all these things that had happened when I was at these seances, but you know, that was me with a medium who, you know, Ray died a few years ago, and all this stuff happened back in the mid-1990s, but I didn't put it out because I thought, you know, people are going to believe me, what are people going to think about this? I suppose, you know, I was a bit more concerned about what people thought. You know, I got a bit older and thought, well, what does it matter? You know, I mean, I'll put this out and let people read it. You know, I mean, I've reported as it happened at the time. So it's genuine reports, what I saw, what I experienced, you know, and I thought let people read it and make up their own minds. You know, people think, well, you know, this guy's waffling and spitting a load of rubbish. You know, fair enough. I mean, you know, so that's why I was saying alien spirits. I mean, was it the spirits of dead aliens, or possibly even was it, you know, genuine aliens coming through from other dimensions? You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, I mean, I'm interested, you know, I've had some favourable reactions to it, but, you know, I'm interested in what anybody thinks. You know, people think, look, Ron, I don't actually agree with any of that and think you're just imagining.
Well, you're going to get that anyway, aren't you? You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
With anything, if you wrote about anything, you get someone that disagrees with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's part and parcel of the discussion. You know, I mean, isn't it? You know, I mean, you know, the world wouldn't be what it was if everybody just put something out and everybody said, oh yeah, I agree with you. You know, I mean, you have to have some discussion to get to some conclusion of some finality about, you know, what has happened. So, you know, everybody gets a better idea and can assess things. I mean, that's my feeling anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, I mean, if you've written a book and you've got, I mean, you've written it through some experience or evidence, if someone's disagreeing with it, then they should give you evidence as to why they're disagreeing with it. No, not just saying, "Oh, I don't believe it" and all that, without any real evidence for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm interested in other people's viewpoints of it, criticism. I mean, constructive criticism. I mean, as you say, people say, well, I don't think it was that, I mean, somebody said before, you sure he didn't hypnotise you? No, he didn't hypnotise me. I don't believe that's an answer. But I said in the book, well, I don't know, it's possible. I'm not ruling that out totally, but I was there for 2 years and, went through like 50 seances. So I don't believe I could be hypnotised every single time. Or I don't think, I've seen people hypnotised, so I don't think I went through that experience at all. But, I mean, I'm willing to take people's points of view about it because I'm interested in what people think about it.
Yeah. I mean, Juliet's got some views about hypnotism, hasn't you, Juliet?
I have, but I fear I would bore Ron and yourself again, David.
Nope. Well, what do you think about it?
I actually am proficient in the art of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time, yes, it can be used for entertainment purposes, as you will have seen on various shows. However, it can be used for medical purposes, and it can be used sometimes in regression, be it right or wrong. There's so much you can do with it, but it depends who has taught or teach. That's the wrong grammar. It needs to be used carefully, but you can say that about anything you do.
Sorry.
No, sorry, it's just another tool in the tool bag of things.
See, I don't think I could.
Really vague,
I don't think I can be hypnotised because I did try it once and not on myself. I mean, I tried, but it didn't seem to work. You get to at one point and a door comes down and you think I can't go any further than this, and so I can actually remember everything that was going on. So.
You're right. Some people can, some people can't. But then again, that goes back to what Ron's been saying, in the conversation tonight. Sometimes you see things, sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it being used for hypnotic regression, for example, which is quite interesting. But I don't know. But I mean, in the past, I know, back in the 1840s and 50s, they used hypnotism to carry out operations, and as far as I'm aware, sometimes they still do that, and it seems to work, which I find really, really strange. But there's no doubt about that, but it just became unpopular because doctors, started prescribing medicines and didn't like the idea of using hypnotism for operations. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously
with my
works.
gallbladder, I'm glad I got. Yeah.
I say, obviously it works.
I'm just glad when I had my.
It makes people give up smoking and things like that, doesn't it? So
Yeah. Well, that's it. I know. Yeah. I mean, I find it fascinating myself. Not that I've ever tried it or anything. I wouldn't try doing it, but I mean, I find that fascinating. Especially when you get some people saying, no, hypnotism is just a little bit of rubbish. I find that odd, actually, that people just dismiss it.
Yeah. Well,
it's like you believe in UFOs, but not hypnotism.
Yeah. Well, the thing about, I think the thing about regression, I mean, taking you into possibly past lives and things like that, I find quite fascinating. But is it a point of where you actually get to a point where you're actually making things up in your own head, or are you really going into your past lives?
Yeah, I think that's always been the criticism of it, isn't it? I mean, when it's used for that kind of purpose. How much is actually genuine? How much are you making it up out of your own imagination? Yeah, I mean, I think that's always going to be a criticism. But I mean, I don't know, Juliet. What do you think?
Point. No, absolutely excellent point. I remember having a conversation with somebody about it, and they said, well, there are things that you remember in your head, and you can't, like your secondary brain at the back. And something could trigger it. It could be a smell. It could be a taste. So if you're being regressed and, like the word elephant or banana, and it's that thing, your other brain goes, okay, and it constructs. But it's like I say, you don't use the potential of your brain to 100%. We don't. So it's one of those, it's still, hypnotism isn't understood properly. I know that. You know that.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sad fact.
when I had my bit of
But the yesterday,
when I had my bit of regression that I did, I mean, I was actually being taken back, and I got to a point where I didn't know if I was making up what was coming into my head.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I mean, I used to say it's not from a film you might have seen sometime, you know, and you get cause I mean, part of my regression was I can remember being on a ship as a young boy or something, you know, and, but I thought, well, am I really living that or reliving that, or am I making it up? It's just one of those things that I wasn't satisfied with.
I mean, I think that's what people, you know, where people have doubts about it. I mean, in that sense of trying to get out, trying to get memories, you know, from people through regression. But I haven't watched it happen. I mean, I find it fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Ron, I'll have to send you a link to the guy who taught me, and I'll.
Oh yeah.
And he really looks like it's a patho newsreel, and it's fantastic. And it's like, and he's got like, he was 6'4". He's called Richard, and he's got the pointy beard. And believe me, when you watch it, you'll go, my God, he looks it. He was the epitome, and the starry eyes.
Oh yeah, that'll be interesting.
I think you'll enjoy it.
I'm looking forward to that.
I guess just to close down, Ron, what sort of interesting seance experiences have you had? Anything sort of outstanding?
Well, I mean, you know, the most outstanding thing is, you know, what I wrote about in Alien Spirits. I mean, I've been to other type of seances where, you know, you get messages coming through, and I mean, I've had one or two messages which, you know, stood out for me, but I've heard a lot of stuff which was just kind of quite general. So, I mean, what I would say is that, you know, you get people getting messages which mean something to them. I often think that, you know, spiritualism or spiritualist meetings, etc., you know, you get people going there, and you say to yourself, well, that wasn't very detailed, was it? But then people seem to find what's been said, and you get people starting to cry because of the messages that come through. So I say, well, you know, there must be some in there.
Well, especially if it's something only they know.
Yeah, well, that's it. We know that's exactly it. You know, you've got things coming through which means something to them and they identify with. So you say to yourself, well, there must be something going on there that is meaningful.
Yeah. I mean, have you experienced the transfigure mediumship?
Well, yeah, well, this is what Ray Todd was doing. He was
transfiguration.
I mean, he was doing transfiguration, yeah. He had the, you know, these aliens were coming through him, so he was actually changing. He was, you know, all these faces and sometimes bodies were coming through his face, through his body, so... Yeah, I mean, you know, it had to be seen to be believed. And, so I saw that, as I said, you know, regularly over 2 years. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely was, you know.
No, I've actually experienced it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever met Frank Willis, but he was at my house, once.
Oh, yeah.
And, it was after the Colonel Holt conference, and he came back to my place. And there was, my wife, there was Sasha Christie, myself, we were all sitting in the room with Frank. And he said, would you like a demonstration? I don't know how the conversation when it came around to it, but he said, would you like a demonstration of transfiguration mediumship? Of course, we all said, yeah, of course. And he was sitting there for probably about 15 minutes, sort of as the lights were fading, and I was sitting there thinking, oh, nothing's going to happen. You think, you know, but all of a sudden, it started happening. His face started changing. I mean, I've spoken about this on this show before. And and we all looked at each other thinking, can you see what I'm seeing? Sort of thing, you know, and we were all seeing the same thing, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it is an astonishing thing to see, isn't it? You know, I mean, really, because it's physical. You say to yourself, well, that is something that's genuine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not somebody just sort of passing on a message. You know, no matter how meaningful, but you're actually seeing something which seems to confirm. You know, well, there's something strange going on. You know, in this world that we live in. something out of the ordinary. Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating thing to see.
Yeah, I mean, Frank's got, well, he won't mind me saying it, but Frank's got quite a ruggy, beaten up face, really. But the shape of his nose was changing, it's going straight up. The ears were changing. It was absolutely fascinating. And, I hope to see it again one day.
Yeah, I love seeing these things, I find it really fascinating to see that. So what kind of person appeared? Was it sort of...
Well, I believe there was about three, it looked like, three different entities came through. There was one like oriental shape came through, and even his hairline changed, which was weird. I believe there was, I can't remember what the other one was, but it's just the shape of the faces that changed. But it definitely was an oriental type shape came through.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, it's really fascinating to see.
Yeah. Have you ever seen that, Juliet?
Sorry, you cut out then.
Oh, have you ever seen that, Juliet, the transfiguration mediumship?
Yes, I did, at one of the conferences with our delightful Frank. It was...
Oh, that's right, I remember you mentioning it,
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I was at that conference, but I was at one at Probe, I believe it was, and someone said that he seemed to change into Jesus Christ or something, and I thought, well, I didn't see that, but I suppose, but maybe it was just someone that looked like Jesus Christ or something, but and I thought, well, it just sounded far-fetched to me,
Yeah. But,
anyway, Ron, it's been great talking to you, and
it's been great speaking to you and Julia. Yeah, it's been terrific.
And,
I really enjoyed
your book, Alien Spirits, is available on Amazon.
It is, yes. It's available on Amazon.
And as you said, it's available on Kindle, but I'd always advise people to get the paper version. The whole.
Yeah.
It's always nice to have a piece of book in your hands to read. But,
absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Have you got any further plans for any more books?
Well, yeah, I thought about I might do something on, what I was talking about at the Zoom conference on Scotland's monsters. So I might put something together on that. I'm thinking about it. And because I'm interested in, that whole area. So, yeah, so that's a possibility.
Yeah, I wonder if the SPI is going to be on again next year for 2023.
For the conference?
No, hang on. What year are we? No, 22. Sorry. Jumping ahead a bit.
Well, we're hoping to. Yeah. More obviously depending on the COVID situation.
I think the problem is it takes a while to plan these things, doesn't it? So, it might well be 23, the way things are going.
It might be, I know, yeah. Anyway, well, we're hoping to, if you don't have it as a, proper conference, so to speak, we do a Zoom one again, I guess, But we're hoping that we might, because obviously people like getting together at the conferences and having a chat and so on, and which obviously, is not the same when you're doing it over Zoom.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, I mean, we're in the lap of the gods, so to speak.
Yeah. Anyway, well, I'll put a link to your book on the Paranormal Dimensions page.
Thank you very much, David.
Look it up and hopefully good luck, and I hope it does well for you. I'm sure it will, because I'm going to get a copy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And hopefully if I get to see you can sign it for me.
Absolutely, yeah, hope so.
Any last words from you, Juliet?
No, Ron, thank you very much indeed. I've sent you a friend request. God knows why I haven't done that before. And I shall pass some random things your way.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, they've got something to look forward to there, Ron.
Yeah.
Nothing rude.
Right, we better leave it there.
Yeah.
Before I get myself into more trouble.
Again.
Anyway, thank you, Ron, and been great talking to you. And good luck with your book, as I said, and take care of yourself. And hope to get to see you at some point. Yeah. And thank you, Juliet.
Pleasure.
Anytime you're in Scotland.
Yay!
Let me know.
Anyway, good night to you too, and thank you very much again. And hope everyone enjoyed that.
I did. It was brilliant. No, I really enjoyed that, having a chat with you both. Yeah, it was great.
Great, thank you.
Thanks again for having me on.
That's brilliant, Ron. Cheers. Take care of yourself, mate. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye, Juliet. Bye-bye.
Bye, Juliet. Bye, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Right, you've been listening to Paranormal Dimensions. I'm David Young on the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed that. Bye-bye.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK Radio Network.